Hello dear students, welcome back. In the last video, we have come up to the sex determination. Now let us try to understand how the sex of an offspring, progeny, is going to be determined. Okay, now there are two ways of sex determination. In most of the lower vertebrates, there are factors which are going to determine the sex, which are environmental factors, particularly the temperature at which the eggs are incubated. They are going to determine the sex, right? Say for example, in case of turtles, high temperature will lead to the formation of female, whereas when the eggs are exposed to low temperature will lead to the formation of male. Right? In case of alligator, both high and low temperature will lead to the formation of females, whereas the moderate temperature is going to lead to the formation of males. So that means temperature also acts as a factor for the sex determination in case of some organisms. But in most of the cases, it is the genetic basis of sex determination we can find. So that means what type of a particular chromosome is inherited from the parents will decide the sex of the baby. Particularly, we are very much interested in knowing the mechanism of sex determination in human beings. How the boys are produced or how the girls are produced. So that means a baby may be male or female depending upon the chromosome which will inherit. Okay. Now, as we know that in case of human beings, we know there are 46 chromosomes are there. That means they are grouped under 23 pairs. Already in the last section I told you. Then 22 pairs of such chromosomes are called as autosomes. They are responsible for autosomal characters. Autosomal characters means the body characters. Maybe the formation of our body, the formation of our heart, internal structures, the formation of our muscles, everything. But the last pair, that is the 23rd pair, is responsible for the sex determination. As we know that the females will have similar chromosomes, that is the last pair XX, and the males will be having dissimilar chromosome, that is X and Y. Say for example, here is a diagram that shows the autosomes will be similar in both male and female. That is, the 22 pairs of autosomes will be same for male and female. In addition to that, male will be having XY chromosome and the female will be having XX chromosome. When the gametogenesis takes place, what happens in a pair? One of the chromosome will move to the one gamete and the other will transmit to the other gamete. So 50% of the sperms will carry X chromosome along with the autosomes. Then 50% of the sperms will carry the Y chromosome along with the autosomes. That means 22 plus X and 22 plus Y in chromosome. Whereas the female, because it is she is containing XX chromosomes, similar chromosomes, all the X which we are produced will be having 22 autosomes plus 1 X chromosome. So there is only one, what we say, type of X are produced, that is the in case of female. When a sperm carrying X chromosome fertilizes with the egg which is also carrying X chromosome, the resultant baby will be female, or the zygote will be developed into female. Or the sperm carrying Y chromosome fertilizes with the egg which is always carrying X chromosome, then the progeny will be, what we say, the male progeny will be there. Understood? Then, so this type of the sex determination, where male produces two types of gametes, and this type of sex determination we call it as male heterogamety. Male hetero means different gametes are produced. So two types of gametes are produced in male, that is the 50% of sperm carrying X chromosome and another 50% of sperms carrying Y chromosome. So this is the male heterogamety. Okay, understood? And so far we have discussed about heredity, how the characters will be transmitted, and what are the Mendel's experiments, and all these things. Now let us try to study another concept, that is evolution. Whenever we are talking about evolution, the first name comes to our mind is Charles Darwin, right? Charles Darwin, we have to know about him, little bit history, that is about his biography. Charles Darwin was as a naturalist. He set out on a voyage, that is a tour, when he was 22 years old. The 5-year voyage took him to South America and the islands of its coast. The studies that he conducted during this voyage were to change forever the way we look the variety of the life on earth. Then, interestingly, after he got back to England, he never left its shore again. He stayed at home and conducted various experiments that led him to formulate his hypothesis that evolution took place due to natural selection. That is the main point, focus point of the Darwin's theory of evolution. Right? He did not know how the variations arise in the species. He would have been enlightened if he was knowing about Mendel. Right? So that means both of them are working for the same, but the inheritance pattern was not known to Darwin, whereas it was earlier known to this Mendel. But he was not knowing that. But he could work out that it is the natural selection that determine the evolution. Then what is evolution? Evolution is a gradual change that is going to make a new species. Slow and steady process along with the factors which are responsible for evolution. Then there is a speciation. Say for example, this is one example. There is a one species, there is a founder species, the pioneer species, my main species. So there are variations that will occur in these birds, and these birds will, over a period of time, if they are adapted to a particular environment, then they become a new species. You can see the beak here, the long beak and all. Here the beak has become the shorter one. So this is a finch. These are named after Darwin. So they are called as Darwin finches. So here one variety is Amakihi and another variety is Nihoa finch. So over a period of time, so these are gradually developed into two new species from a original species. Right. So evolution is a gradual change that is taking place in living organisms, giving rise to the new organisms due to changes in the genetic composition. Inherited traits, the traits which are going to be transferred from parents to the offsprings. That is, they keep on passing from one generation to another generation. Whereas acquired traits, already we know that they are the traits which are being obtained during the lifetime of an organism, but these acquired traits are not going to be transferred. Of course, when we talk about evolution, there is one theory, Lamarck's theory also comes to our mind. What Lamarck tells is, if a trait is acquired, that is going to be inherit or that is going to be transferred to the next generation, and the whatever the trait that is acquired in that generation, that also will be transferred. So during a many generation, what happens, the trait that is acquired by an organism keep on transferring, and later it becomes speciation. For that, what he has given an explanation, the giraffes, modern days giraffes. So the olden days giraffes were having shorter limbs and shorter neck, right? As the shortage of food happened, then when the angiosperms have developed, then these olden days giraffes, they need to stretch their legs and neck in order to browse the plant, in order to take food, right? Over a period of time, many generations, there is a small increase in the legs as well as in the length of the neck. Right. Over a longer duration, what happened? The modern days giraffes, which are having a very long legs and long neck, have evolved. But this theory was disproved later on. Later on, the theory of this acquired inheritance of acquired characters, or the theory of use and disuse of parts, which was proposed by Lamarck, that is being completely is being rejected by this one. Then, what are the evidences of evolution? There are number of common features in different organisms which provide evidence to show evolutionary relationship. Say for example, homology, analogy, fossils, embryology. There are so many evidences are there. Let us try to discuss each one of them. Okay, JBS Haldane, a British scientist who later became a citizen of India, suggested in 1929 that the evolution, the origin of life has started from inorganic molecules or chemical molecules, and later on they have just aggregated to form the organic molecules, right? And this was the theory that was proposed by Haldane, JBS Haldane. Oparin, one more is there, Oparin. Oparin and Haldane, they have explained this. Whereas the experimental proof was provided by another two scientists, that is Stanley L. Miller and Harold C. Urey. Urey and Miller, they created the conditions which was present at the early age of the earth. So when the earth has formed, there was a lot of heat and there was no oxygen, there are a lot many hydrogen and then methane and water vapors were there. So all these conditions were created. That is called as a reducing environment, right? More amount of methane, hydrogen, ammonia, and then this water vapors were there, and the heat was also too much. When they have simulated the conditions in laboratory, then they could get some of the simple organic molecules like amino acids they got, and some of them got the glucose, carbohydrates, right? So that means the inorganic molecules aggregate themselves under special conditions and they become the organic molecules. That is the first evidence, right? Then ultimately the product of evolution will be speciation, that is formation of a new species from the existing species. So the formation of a new species from the existing species is mainly due to one or more following factors. What are those? Accumulation of variations, physical barriers, genetic drift, natural selection and migration, right? So during sexual reproduction, what happens? More number of variations keep on accumulating in the population, right? So these variations, if they are selected by the nature, so for everything here the selection by nature, then that means these variations are adopted to the nature, then this will lead to a new species. Then physical barriers. Suppose the variants are present in a population, they get separated due to some reasons, right? Maybe natural calamities or adverse conditions, they get separated and they never meet together for a very long period, maybe thousands of years. Then what happens? In that population also there is a accumulation of variation. In this population also there is a accumulation of variation, and once they happen to meet among themselves, there is no reproduction because they are changed so much that their sperm and all the eggs, they are not compatible, they are not matching. In that case, what happens? There is a new species is going to form. Genetic drift means a sudden change, right, because of the accident. So genetic drift coupled with the geographical isolation or physical barriers will lead to the formation of a new species. Natural calamities or introduction of a new members to the same species in the area produce a change in the gene pool and will produce a new species. And main point is natural selection. As we know that during either reproduction or due to the separation of the population, right, that is the physical barriers or genetic drift, accidental changes or even migration, for any reason there is a change or they keep on having these variations. But these variations, if they are suitable to the environment or if they are suitable to the nature, that means if the organism can adapt to that by means of a particular variation, then the organism number will increase and will lead to the new speciation, right? So that means natural selection play a very important role in the selection of the species and the formation of a new species. So here is an example. I think this particular example is from your textbook, isn't it? Now let us take, this is the original population, founder population. What is this? A group of red beetles. As we know that as the reproduction progresses, there will be some variants will be produced. In both these cases, let us take in the first case, there is a group of red beetles and there is one green beetle arises as a variant, right? In the second one also, there is a group of red beetles and here there is a blue beetle that is arised. Okay, here only red beetles are there. This one we will discuss after these two. The first one, in first case what happens in the population of red beetles, there is one green beetle. Okay. Then the beetles are the prey for the birds, crow for example. These birds will identify the red beetles in the background of green bushes and they are easily identifiable or easily visible and they keep on becoming food for these crows and their population will be reduced. But the green beetle will escape the identification by the predator. It will escape the what we say eating by this predator. So thereby what happens? Its population will increase because green beetle can easily hide in the green bushes. In the background of green bushes, that is called as camouflaging. So just matching the color of the background, that is camouflaging. Because of that, the population of red beetles keep on reducing whereas the green beetles will increase. Okay, because they are not identified by this crows, and over a period of time what will happen, there is a new species that is developed, that is the green species or green beetles are going to be formed. But don't be under the impression that the red beetle will completely wiped off. It is not so, right? So some of the red beetles will remain and their population also will grow, and over a period of time what happens, red beetle will keep on accumulating the variations, green beetle will keep on accumulating the variations, and their gametes will change in such a way that if they happen to meet after a very long time, so they are not compatible, they are not able to reproduce. See, when we say the species, what is the definition of species? Species is a group of organisms which are having similar structure and breed among themselves. That means breeding should be there. If there is no breeding among themselves, we say that they are different species. That's how a new species from the original red beetle population has developed. So this is an example of natural selection because nature is operating in the form of prey-predator relationship, right? Because of this green beetle can escape from the predator, it has developed into a new species. That is one thing. Then comes the red beetles. Red beetles as a variant, what is there? Blue beetles are also produced. But whether red color or blue color or yellow color, it does not give any of the survival advantage like in case of green beetle. They can be easily identified by the predators, both is this red as well as the blue beetles. But in a forest, an elephant is moving. Okay, when an elephant just moving, going for a walk and stamp its foot on the bushes, accidentally what happens, because of the more number of red beetles, the red beetle population has vanished, destroyed. That is an accident. Okay, anybody could have been died, but here whatever this is, the red beetles have died and leaving behind the blue beetles, and their population will increase and then they become a new species, and when they happen to meet some other red beetles, there is no breeding among themselves, so that means this become a new species. So this is not going to take place in a day or two, it may take millions of years in some cases. Okay, if the lifespan is more, the evolution or speciation is also will take more time. That is, these two are the example, right? So this is the example of operation of natural selection. this is the speciation by a chance factor, accidental factor, that is what is called as the genetic drift. Then the third example, there is a red beetle, but the size of the red beetles have been reduced because the bushes in which they were residing, it got diseases and then the growth is affected. They did not get the enough food, but their size is reduced, and after some days the disease is been simply the plants could get rid of that disease, right, and the plants will grow profusely and they get enough food, and once again they get the normal weight. Okay, so the reduction of the weight because of the scarcity of food does not lead to the evolution. So this particular illustration will say that this is an acquired trait. This is an acquired trait. Then evolution may be natural. Whatever so far we are discussing is a natural, and sometimes it is artificial. So nature in its own way, it will select the species by operating with this genetic drift and then gene migration and then by accumulation of variation. So nature will select them. But artificially also we can do. That is called as man-made evolution. Now, so this is the one factor. Say for example, if a population of green beetle is there, some yellow beetles will enter into this population, and the yellow color is because of some gene, right? So body color is controlled by gene. Like that, when it enters, it may mate with this, and hybrid may produce, okay, or some more may enter, and their population will increase over a period of time. If these two get separated, this become a new species, and this one will also become a new species, or a hybrid may become a new species. So that means gene flow in the form of an organism coming into some other population, right, or going from this population to the other population. Immigration and emigration. Immigration means movement of the genes into a population, or exit of genes from that population will also lead to the speciation. That is gene flow. Then I was talking about geographical isolation. Suppose there is a population, original population is there, and because some river has come, okay, a big river, and the width of the river is so large that these beetles cannot cross that river, and thereby over a period of time these become a new population, the variations will accumulate and there is no chance of meeting, and they become this type of, say here the green beetles and all these become yellow beetle and all, okay, and here they become a two different populations. See, from a original population, two different populations or two different species are formed, right? So that is what is called as the geographical isolation. Physically they are isolated. Isolation means separation. Okay, then natural selection, I already told you that the green color give the survival advantage to the green beetle because it can hide from the predator over a period of time. There is a population of green beetle will develop. There is a new species is developed. That is the third factor, natural selection. Then genetic drift also we have talked about it, right? Suppose there is no natural selection or there is no survival advantage to this blue beetle, but accidentally an elephant stamp its food, the red beetle population vanishes, leaving behind the blue beetles, and thereby blue population has developed. Okay. Then evolution by stages. We know that evolution is a very slow process, gradual process, and evolution generally takes place in a slow manner, slow and in a staged manner. Okay, step by step. Say for example, in case of planaria, we see that the rudimentary eyes are there, which are not able to be used for sensing the environment, but there is an eye-like structure is there, right? So there is just they detect the light. So the eyes of planaria are just eye spots to detect the light. And over a period of time, as we move on in the classification, we find that there is a proper eye that is developed because the simple eye is inherited to the next and all. So developed gradually into a complex organ in higher animals. So it is not going to take place, develop in a single generation. It will take many generations. Or for example, the evolution of feathers. As we know that there is one theory that the birds are evolved from the smaller reptiles like dinosaurs. So say for example, there is a dinosaur which is having a rudimentary wings. That means they are not used for the purpose of flight. But over a period of time, from these, some have been evolved that become a bird having a proper wing and feathers, and thereby they could, they could fly. Of course, feathers in the dinosaurs may be because to protect their body. It may not be useful for the purpose of flying, but it is used for the purpose of protecting the body. But this use is being later on in this other group is being used for the other purpose. Feathers were first developed in dinosaurs and used for protection from cold. Later, bird used them for the flying. Like this, the evolution will takes place. Then evolution by artificial selection. The artificial evolution is also called as man-made evolution. Man-made evolution or anthropogenic evolution. Right. We have been cultivating so many vegetables, so many crops over a long period, over a lot of years we are cultivating, and we generally select the whatever the desired, what we say, the characters we find. Say for example, in a group of crop like paddy, suppose some plants are giving more grains, so we select that plant and we try to just cross with the some other breed and we get the other characters and we try to use it. So this crossing of desirable characters, and we are selecting, it is not the nature that is selecting, we are selecting and will produce a new varieties, new species. Say for example, there is an example of the different vegetables that are being given. Okay, so these are the vegetables: cabbage, cauliflower, kale, kohlrabi, broccoli, right? So these are red cabbage for that matter. So these are all being derived from the one cabbage variety, that is what is called as the wild cabbage. From the wild cabbage, these are all being derived by artificial selection, that is by just crossing with the different. So what are the characteristics the man has used? Cabbage, by selecting short distance between the leaves. So the distance of the leaves have become reduced and we have selected that particular variety and we cultivated and we get cabbage. Cauliflower, we select it is from the sterile flowers. Then kale, by selecting the large leaves, you can see that large leaves are here. So large leaves are selected and that becomes kale. Then kohlrabi, that is null kohl or kohlrabi, here we select by selecting swollen stem. The stem part is swollen and it is used as a kohlrabi. Broccoli, that is arresting the flower growth. Floral growth is arrested here. So all these varieties, even red color cabbage, that is for the color we have selected. They have been arised as a variants in the population and those variants are selected and breed among themselves, or what we say, they have been crossed for the desirable characters. Well, who has done that? It is the man who has selected. It is an artificial selection, right? By artificial selection, now even in animals we get so many hybrid varieties, right? Say maybe this HF varieties of animals last year you have studied, right? Or this in case of local Sahiwal, like that of many types of varieties are there, and they are all because of artificial selection. So here is the different. So from the wild cabbage we got kohlrabi, cauliflower, broccoli, cabbage, red cabbage, kale, and we have used different characteristics to what we say, select these organisms. Then evolution and classification. See, nowadays evolutionary relationship can be used for classification. Previously we just used the morphological characters. We know last year diversity of living organisms. We know that previously we were using morphological characters. Later on we have taken anatomical characters. Later on we have taken their functions, molecular characters, so many. And in the same way, now we can use the evolution as a basis of classification. And we know that in case of classification, more broader characters are used first, and next level less important characters, next level little less important characters. Like that we keep on classifying the organisms. Suppose if an organism, if two related groups are having very lot of similarities, very close to each other, that means they might have been having the common ancestor. That means they tend to be grouped in a particular group, right? And as we move up, then the number of similarities will be reduced, and if you see some of the organisms, they are going to be having lot of similarities. They might have been originated from the same ancestors. Like that we have to take, or we have to consider the process of evolution for the classification. Okay, next video we will talk about it.